This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, we're having a little technical problem here, but I guess we'll be okay. It's 9 o'clock. Is everybody on for the board?
I'm here, Joe Chrisman.
Yes,
Doran's
Nancy.
here.
Yes, Nancy's here.
And Steve, right?
Yep.
Okay. And Tina's on? Okay,
I'm on.
great, and Alicia. Thanks everybody for showing up, and I think the first thing we'll do is the water sewer budget because Star and Thomas are on the line, and we can get them on their merry way if we have that behind us. Okay, so Star or Thomas, do you want to bring forward your budget?
Sure. So this is Star talking, and yes, we do have Thomas on the line as well. So I think everybody has a copy of the water sewer budget memo that I prepared to go along with the budget. And I just want to run through a couple of things. So for the wastewater budget, we are not having any rate increases for the next fiscal year. And the overall sewer budget is proposed to be $52,267 more due to a first year planned principal payment for the wastewater treatment plant improvement project. So to balance things, we are pulling $73,000 and some change from reserves to help fund that payment. This budget does include that 79 EDU decrease that we talked about during that EDU assessment letter last month. So we did see some EDU decreases in the inside sewer, the correctional facility, and the Cedar Point State Park. So next year things will have to be evaluated. We'll see what happens this year. Same thing for the water budget, no rate increases proposed for this next fiscal year, and the overall water budget is actually $14,000 and some change less than the current year that we're in. This does account for that 35 EDU reduction that we saw in the EDU assessment. So this budget also does include the full long-term debt payment for the water project that we completed this year, and we're planning to put $8,000 and some change into reserves. Now that memo does kind of do a point by point of the significant increases or decreases happening in each category. I won't go through them one by one, but does anybody have any questions about those before I talk about the meter auto read project that I'm proposing? All right, doesn't sound like there's any questions. So I do want to talk about what we're proposing for this auto read beacon badger technology. So right now the village has water meters, and the system is set up that the operators have to go around and drive around to collect all the readings. This involves quite a bit of time from the clerk as well. She has to set up the collection unit for a route every billing cycle to go around, and the guys drive and collect all those readings. They give the unit back to Joanne. She downloads the data, and then it goes into the billing software, and then a series of reports are generated showing meters that don't seem to be reading correctly or didn't transmit, any accounts that seem like they ran high or low unusually, and so we're really only seeing if there's an issue with a meter or high usage or low usage every 4 months during the billing cycle. And this can be fixed where if we implement an auto read system, the water quality supervisor and the water department will be able to look at the health of the meters every day. So an auto read system that we are proposing to put in is with beacon technology, which the village is already going to have, and it pulls in an automatic reading from all the meters every 6 hours, and it utilizes the cellular towers. So I know a few years ago a presentation was given to the board about an auto read system that involved installing towers and having to purchase and maintain those towers. The technology has moved on to where it uses the existing cellular towers that are in the area without having to purchase any kind of infrastructure or towers, which is the ideal situation. We don't want to have to purchase towers. So every 6 hours, we'd be getting a reading off of these meters, and we'd be able to see any meters that are not functioning properly and be able to create a work order and send the guys out within 6 hours of that meter no longer are showing some issues. We would also be able to detect leaks much faster. So if we see the system can flag a meter that is showing unusually high usage over a period of time and flag it for you so that we can send somebody out and see, okay, do we have a leak here? This is so important. It's going to save so much time. I just went through this meter reading and billing cycle that we went through in February and March, and the amount of time that the staff are spending trying to find these issues that we only know all at once every 4 months. And it would be so much more efficient. We'd be able to fix things faster, find the issues faster, save water if we had this auto read technology. And the other benefit, not only for the water department, but for the consumers and the customers, is this auto read technology would also allow customers to be able to log into their accounts and see their readings between billing cycles. So they could essentially monitor their own usage, and it's not a surprise when the bill comes out that they used a lot of water because they'd be able to see it themselves as well. So I've seen this in action in Cape Vincent. The Cape Vincent DPW superintendent has auto read technology in place, and I actually sat down next to him in front of the Beacon software, and it just blew my mind. And he was able to see 100% of his meters were reading that day, and 3 of them were showing unusually high usage. And so he was sending his guys out to go check that out. So I've seen it in action, and I really liked it. So we've spoken to Badger, and we got a quote. And we wouldn't have to change out the meters. This is the wonderful thing. You guys invested in meters a couple of years ago. Those meters are still valid. We can still keep them. The only thing we need to change out is the sensor that's on top of the meter that kind of is installed above or near the meter so that it transmits the data. Those would all need to be replaced, and we're looking at a budget of $185,445 to purchase and install those cellular enabled sensors. And then there's going to be an additional $10,200 annual fee for the Badger service, and this will go under our service contracts. The good news is the water unrestricted fund balance right now has $877,000 in it. So there's more than enough funds to pay for this project in fiscal year 22. We're estimating that the auto read is going to save the village about 288 labor hours between the clerk and the operators. And that's not including my time that I've been spending the past few weeks hunting down these meters and issues and taking a look at everything. So we're also going to see some additional savings in water loss prevention by detecting these leaks faster. So in 2020, we are approximating about $73,000 worth of excess water loss in the system. And sometimes we can't find the leak for 6 to 8 days because we're not seeing where the water is being lost. And this auto read is going to give us a daily health checkup on that system to be able to help us track down leaks and find them faster. So I really think that this would be the next logical step for the village. You guys installed the meters that have this technology. We just need to replace out the sensors. We're already upgrading to the Beacon software right now, which was a planned upgrade that you needed to do because the current meter reading software called Read Center is outdated. So we're already going to be upgrading to the software technology that we need to do this. Now we just need to get the cellular enabled in place. So does anybody have any questions on this?
Excuse me, Star, this was also in the asset management plan that was put together. So it's no surprise that this is something that's been in the works for a while to think about doing. And if we've got the funds to do it, that's even better.
I agree.
Does anyone on the board?
Yes. What's the time frame for installation? Because summer people aren't here and everything else, so you got to gain entry into houses, right?
If the sensors are inside, then yes, we will need to do that. And if we can move forward with this, I would probably get going on it as soon as possible. I would like to see this up and running before the end of this current fiscal year. So we would be looking at, we need to bid out for the labor, and there's a couple of steps that would have to happen. And so we can put together a next steps plan, and I'll certainly work with Thomas on that, since Thomas is going to be taking this over and he'll want to have input in the plan for getting this project in. But I think we can get this done by the end of this coming year.
When we put the new meters in a few years ago, most of them were fixed so they were outside. So you don't have to have entry. There are still some that are inside, but the majority of them are outside for read.
Right, and again, we're not replacing the meter itself. We're only replacing the sensor.
But you got to put the sensor on, right?
Correct. Yes, we have to replace the sensor, but not the meter.
But you have to have entry to the house to do that.
If the sensors are inside, yes.
Okay, you said it's 10,000 a year to remain on the system.
That's the service fee, the Badger service fee for essentially the software and the software maintenance, and yeah, and that's.
So do you have an estimated payback for it?
Well, we're looking at, you know, I have the number of about $6,000 annually in staff labor, although I put that number together using the charge out rates for the clerk and the operators, which weren't the fully burdened rate. So I actually think the savings in labor annually would be higher than that. But again, being able to detect the leaks in the water system much faster is going to end up saving us money. Like I said, in 2020, we're looking at approximately $73,000 worth of excess water that's being lost out of the system. And I mean, if we could even drop that down by half by being able to detect these smaller leaks faster, then I think you'd be seeing a return on investment very quickly.
And the leaks you're talking about are from on the homeowner's side of the meter, like if somebody had a garden hose connection leaking or a couple toilets running type of thing, right?
So we'd be able to detect those leaks faster, yes. But what also is great about this system is so if we see that we're losing or we're producing more water and we're not being able to account for that water in the meters, that tells us that the leak is going to be somewhere else. So it's not necessarily a residential leak. It could be a leak within the distribution system. So being able to alert us to whether it's a residential leak or not is also going to help us pinpoint where the losses are.
Right.
So I guess I can kind of to add to that. So right now, depending on when the system calls for water, you might see daily spikes in how much water is produced at the water plant. And what Star said earlier is it might take 6 or 7 days for the operators to be like, okay, our 6 or 7 day average, we're up 90,000 gallons. Something is obviously wrong that we need to address. And by having this system, we'd be able to say, like within a day of, hey, we made 500,000 gallons, but only 200,000 went through the meters. There's a problem here, and we haven't done any flushing, or there hasn't been any fires. Like, there's got to be a leak someplace that we haven't found yet, that hasn't come to the surface. Then the guys can start going out and start checking the system and try to narrow down where that is. And that's that 73,000 is the water that doesn't go through meters, but the village makes. And so therefore we have that cost that unfortunately it just kind of gets absorbed into the budget.
Star, this is Nancy Hyde. Like Norma had said, this has been talked about for the last few years, and I think it's a great project. My question is, next year in 21 and 22, 23 budgets, I know we're going to be we're scheduled to increase, I believe it's the sewer EDU. That's what Megan had set up every 2 years. Are we going to see an increase in the cost of EDU because of this project? And
So I
from
don't,
what I'm reading, we shouldn't, but that's a question.
yeah, so I don't anticipate that this would cause an increase in the EDUs. That $10,200, which is the service fee, we can handle that a couple of different ways. Other municipalities have put that on the bill as a service fee, so it end up being about $3.50 per bill, so that it doesn't cost the village budget anymore. Essentially, the customers would be absorbing that service fee cost, but it doesn't have to be that way. So no, I don't anticipate this project will increase EDUs. If anything, residents being able to check in on their own usage in between billing cycles may help people monitor their water better. And so I think we might see, you know, some improvement in how people are using water. But I don't think that this will necessarily affect EDUs.
Thank you. Okay. Yep.
And you're right, just to reiterate, you know, this is something that you guys have talked about for a few years, but in the past conversations, the auto read required the purchase and maintenance of these towers, and most likely the village was going to need more than one tower. This new technology does not require that, and that I think is what the huge plus is. You know, you don't have to invest in this infrastructure that, frankly, Badger told us has to be replaced every 7 years. Those towers have a very short life. So having the cellular technology available to us now, and available to us on the software that we're already implementing, I think that just lines us up to be ready to go ahead and make this step.
So to reiterate also what you said, it would also make it's going to make the whole billing cycle also much easier. Is that correct?
Oh my goodness.
Because
Yes.
we've been going through a lot, and it's been extremely time consuming on your part and the clerk's part. So you're anticipating some of this may be decreased.
I am, because the current workflow that's happening now is Joanne, when she runs the bills, that's when we find out that certain accounts might be having some issues. And so she has to spend all this time basically pulling the bills and the accounts that aren't reading right or seem unusually high or low, which takes a lot of time. And she produces these lists of go backs that the operators have to do. So instead of her having to spend her time to do that, we'll be able, as the water department, we'll be able to see those issues in real time and fix them as we go. So when the billing cycle comes, the only thing that has to happen is the current readings on that read day for the bills goes into the software without Joanne having to pull it down or, you know, put it in a unit for the guys to read. The daily readings that day will just go into the software. And the only thing she's going to have to do then is print and stuff the bills. But we shouldn't have any surprises every billing cycle, because we'll have already addressed any issues that had happened. Certainly there's still going to be a review of the bills just to make sure everything looks good, but it's going to save so much time, because we're not going to be getting this whole group of potential problems every 4 months. So I do think it's going to benefit Joanne.
It's going to cut down on complaints too, because people aren't going to open their water bill and see increase on their water consumption as a surprise. If we can catch leaks as they happen, you know, like a broken pipe under a cottage or you know, in a lawn or whatever. When that happens, you're going to catch it as it happens, and they're going to be able to repair it.
And so, I agree. I think that's one of the biggest benefits of this system, is we would be able to alert people, customers, that they are having a problem and they need to investigate it. And we're telling them the day that it happens instead of 4 months later, when they already have, you know, accumulated this huge bill that now they have to pay. So now whether that person decides to fix the problem when we alert that they have a problem, that's going to be on them. But at least we've given them the information ahead of time.
Right.
So
Right. You
I
say
agree.
We told you.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
It'll cut down on the surprise. Yes.
I think it's fantastic.
So, you're asking us to put this in the budget, right, Star?
Yes. Basically, I'm asking that this be included for this coming fiscal year. We can
Right.
put together the next steps plan. If everybody says yes, we can go ahead and start making that plan.
Well, you said this is going to be like a service charge on top of the water bill?
It can be that way if the village wants to do it that way. Otherwise, it can be part of the service contracts that we have for other services, like our generator preventative maintenance or pump preventative maintenance. And so you can handle that charge how the village would like.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions from the board? So we'll keep that in the budget as presented by the wastewater treatment plant?
Yes. The water treatment plant.
Are there any other questions for Star or Thomas? So the budget that they've presented will be the one that we'll put out there when we set the public hearing, right?
Yes.
Okay. Star, do you have any questions for the board?
I do not. I appreciate you guys listening to our proposal here, and I'm really excited to move this project forward. I think it's going to be a huge improvement.
Is the board all set with Star and Thomas so they can leave? Are we all good? Thanks a
I
lot
am.
for participating today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so we got the water sewer taken care of. Where do you want to start? Tina's on the phone and with us. Nancy, you sent in some suggestions for, I believe you talked to Terry on the DPW issues.
Yes, I did speak with him. And he said, and I listed, there were a few pieces of equipment that he said he'd love to have, but he doesn't have to have it. And the two pieces that he predominantly wants is the mower and the leaf box. Those are the primary ones for him. And the rest, he said, can wait. Of course, he'd love them all, but the rest could wait. As far as in his budget, also the $5,500 for the new LED lighting. I personally think that should stay in because I believe that's been a problem for us for quite a few years, on and off and et cetera, et cetera. So I think we should get that fixed completely.
I agree 100%.
There has been, let's see, we talked about the fuel tank at the library that would wait another year. And then there needs to be conversation about dock workers. Are we going to have dock? And I think that's becoming more involved than we originally anticipated. I'm sorry, go ahead, Norma.
When you're talking about the fuel tank for the library, if we put that tank in this year, which I think we should do, that would change the rate that they have to pay for fuel oil or for propane. They're paying 99 cents now. It would go down to 82.9. There's a difference if they provide the tank or we do.
Right. I know their rate is 15 cents higher because they provide the tank.
So that would reduce their rate. That would be a good thing for the library if we got that tank in.
Correct, but it's not, I don't disagree with you, but it's not going to reduce it 11,000.
Well, no, it never will. So you don't want to put the tank in this year?
I wouldn't. If we have to cut out $58,000, we need, unless somebody else shows me where else to come up with the money. These are just my thoughts. I'm not hearing from other people. I don't know. It's $11,000 for that tank. And if we can do it this year, great.
If the library doesn't mind paying that little bit of increase, then you're right. We should postpone it another year.
I mean, I haven't gone to the library and made that recommendation to them. They'll do whatever, when it comes to this particular tank, they'll do whatever the village says to do. But I haven't presented that they'd save 15 cents per gallon.
What's your normal consumption over a winter season?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, what's your normal consumption, average consumption over?
I don't know what it is. It's not an easy building to heat, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I don't know that number off the top of my head either. So, again, food for thought. Another question that we had previously was the dock workers. And how many, do we want dock workers? Do we not want dock workers? Do we keep it the same as last year? Do we change it and bring it back to normal? And then what plays into this with the dock workers now has become a different situation that it's appearing this summer we're going to lose for 6-8 weeks 2 DPW workers. And even though they're not the dock workers, they are the guys who pick up trash, and they are the people who take care of the bathrooms and maintain a lot of Mary Street. And without having 2 guys, it's going to be very difficult to maintain Mary Street bathrooms and keeping things in a good working order down at the Mary Street dock.
So you're suggesting that we don't open Mary Street?
Well, it's appearing that way now. Originally, had we not possibly lost these 2 DPW workers, we could open up Mary Street. But losing 2 DPW workers and only leaving 3 guys on is going to make it far more challenging.
Well, I think what's Terry's take on that?
Well, it was Terry that brought that up to me about the bathrooms. And that's what he said. He said, I don't know that we can take care of Mary Street now that we're not going to have these 2 guys this summer.
Well, I don't see where the dock workers and the DPW workers are on the same page.
Well, apparently the DPW workers do quite a few things down at Mary Street. So if we were to have Mary Street dock workers, we may have to have them increase their hours to be able to take care of the bathrooms, et cetera, et cetera. Because then we'd have to have, or do we have Mary Street workers 7 days a week? And we're going to run into problems with trash on the weekends. Who's going to pick that up if we only have 3 DPW workers? So we're going to have to very possibly give the trash pickup to the seasonal workers for the weekend. So, Joe, Steve, what are your thoughts?
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't anticipate these 2 workers not being there. Wow.
Well, I think
Correct.
we've got to take another look at how we run the DPW. We've got more MEOs. I think Terry's got to make a statement on how he's going to function with the possibility of 2 less regular people. I'm thinking that we've got to come up with a better plan at the DPW for MEOs and have contract out some, reduce the force and contract out the work, or have seasonal employees that can do these things.
When you make the statement contract out for the work, what do you mean by that? Are you thinking just for the? Go ahead.
If you had the full force up there, that's one thing. And now we're anticipating that there could be a reduction in the force at DPW of the 5 people. If we had a plan where we had reduced that and had took that, it's cost about $80,000 a year and that is on the light side for a DPW employee with all their benefits and everything. And so there's a lot, probably per employee with vacation, sick time, their breaks, all that. You're talking 350, 400 hours a year that we don't get. So if you had, seasonal employees, I don't know, it's just a thought.
So if I follow correctly, just the thought is, but I guess I'm not, what's your time frame? Are you thinking contract workers for 4 months because of the bind that we're in?
No,
contract
as
workers
a permanent fix.
Oh. I guess my O is I look at our workers, both water and DPW, as part of the whole staff, and I never considered bringing in contractual workers. That's all. Well, it's food for thought.
Well, you've got a lot of downtime. At the wastewater treatment plant, you have people that have to work every weekend. There's about 3 operators, so every 3rd weekend they have to work. They're on call 24/7 for a solid week. So that, that's mandated. And they have to have licenses to work. I don't know, we got to figure out something. I think we need to see how Terry thinks he's going to move forward when this reduction in the staff comes.
Well, his thoughts about moving forward is that he's not going to be able to move forward and undertake everything during the summer that he normally does. So if we want to increase the seasonal workers and increase their timing or their responsibilities, I believe he's okay with that. I haven't had any discussion with him about bringing in contractual workers.
Well, I was thinking like the lawn mowing. Contract it out. You haven't got to worry about equipment. You haven't got to worry about manpower. I mean, we don't have big lawns. They're just a pain in the neck because there's so many little pocket parks.
Well, it sounds
then that
good,
says
but where
that
are we getting the money?
Pardon?
We're already 58,000 over, and we got to come up with that. How are we going to lower that by hiring contractors?
I'm saying reduce the workforce by 1 and use the money for contract labor to do the lawns and pick up the trash, all those things that we struggle to get done.
One of the 2 guys is taking a leave of absence voluntarily. Thus, you wouldn't be paying him, right?
Well, we haven't. That's a board decision how that's going to go.
Right.
But you're correct, Steve. When the individual if he's taking the leave of absence no matter what. When I mean in the sense that he's got to go and take care of his family. So he needs that time off. There's no
Right.
doubt about it. So no, if the board was to grant him the leave of absence, he would not be any, there would not be any pay, health insurance, et cetera, et cetera.
Does he
Basically,
understand that, Nancy, that he's gonna have to pick up his health insurance?
that I don't know for sure. So I'm not gonna, I don't know. I know that he knows he wasn't going to be paid, but as far as the benefits, I don't know. I look at it as the leave of absence as his placeholder when all this is said and done, that he can come back and
We're talking
May, June.
about a new budget starting June 1st. So I don't know how we want to move forward with that, but we're not, I mean, these are difficult decisions to make. We have to make the decision that's in the best interest of the taxpayer.
Exactly.
Wake up, everybody.
Well, it's a
Well,
lot of
I
information
guess
to
right
process
now
at once.
it kind of bothers me to go to contractual workers, because in my mind, I see in the next 5 years, everybody in the village will be contracted out, and it doesn't right now set well with me, but that doesn't mean my feelings or thought process won't change.
So Tina, how much money are we off?
Well, let me just get a couple points of clarification from you. Is it my understanding, Nancy, that I should reduce the maintenance of streets, equipment, and capital outlay to only include the John Deere mower and the leaf box?
That is correct.
Okay.
I have a question. Didn't we just get a new mower?
No, we didn't. No, this is,
I
Tina
thought it was
might
a
have,
year or two ago.
We have more than one.
no.
One of them is kind of new, but
It's not working out, or?
well, I don't think they replace it. We've got more than one more up there, right, Nancy?
Yes, they just want a newer, they're going to trade in one of the John Deere's
Oh, gotcha.
for approximately $5,500 and get a newer one, because the current one is just getting old and used. I don't have an exact date on it when we purchased that.
Okay, thank you.
Some additional information, or in between our last meeting and this meeting, and the water and sewer budgets kind of coming together, and me having the ability to work with both water and sewer, I was able to reallocate some of the benefits. We updated some benefit information. We do have your final assessment numbers in, so I've kind of got those factored in. I had to build in $23,000 for interest on the ready ban, the $2 million ready ban. So right now, with all these changes, believe it or not, backwards, forwards, up and down, we're within $16,000 of closing the gap. So my part of, I guess, clarification for me, I have built into the budget right now about $30,000 for dock workers. And I've been listening to the conversation back and forth, and so I'm not sure if that's an area of reduction or not. But just to make you aware that that's about what's in the budget right now. I have removed any wages for parking meters. It is my understanding that we're not gonna have parking meters this year
Correct.
due to construction.
Well,
Um,
is that true, Norma?
Well, I don't think that with the construction still in downtown, they'd kind of like to keep them on John Street. But I think that our police department could monitor what ones, if they put them, because John Street is such a cluster down there, people come and park all day. Got to keep them moving. But as far as the loop itself, James Street's going to be pretty full of construction, and Riverside Drive on by the hotel down in there. So I thought the consensus was not to put the parking meters up and hire somebody just to monitor what few are up, and let the police department do that.
Well, if we're going to hire somebody to monitor it, we ought to put what meters we can up. And that way there's a little payback at least. And then put them up as construction moves along.
And Joe, that was when I spoke with Kevin, that was Kevin's thoughts also.
Yeah,
I mean, I
he said the
understand that I
same thing to
brought
me.
that up 2 weeks ago, but after speaking with Kevin, his comment was, and I thought, well, true. He said, grab whatever revenue you can when you can.
Exactly.
So
rather
it
than
may
hire somebody, I would think the police department could empty those meters and monitor those meters that are up.
well,
you just
they
said
would. He's
hire
got
somebody to monitor it.
right.
Pardon?
He's got the two guys already, waiting in the wings for doing meter attending. So that's all set. He wouldn't go out and hire.
Well, I know, but you still got to pay them regardless of who they are.
Right, but over the years, it has shown that what money's taken in is pretty much they take care of themselves, and then we make an extra 15 to 20,000 on the meters, roughly. My numbers could be completely wrong. So we wouldn't necessarily, would we actually be saving money?
I think another thing that we got to think about in the police department is how we best use our part-time help. I talked to Kevin extensively last week about this 2-man coverage on Friday and Saturday night for 5 or 6 months. And it's in the contract, I understand that, but it is, to me, there's not another law enforcement agency that's in town that has 2 people in it, regardless of the day. That we could better use that money that's in there for the second person on Friday and Saturday night and have better coverage. We don't have anybody on Sunday and Monday at all. We need, in the summertime, I think we need somebody here Sunday and Monday. Better use of our money to have somebody there than at midnight, 2 people in downtown.
But that has to be changed in their contract.
I think you could get a waiver. I was waiting for Kevin wanted to talk to Josh about it, but I think that would be something that they could, it can be done with a waiver. And it should be considered. I mean, it makes no sense to me to have 2 people on Friday and Saturday night, especially if they don't have anything opened up better than we have right now past 11 o'clock.
Well, I think the Friday and Saturday night are because of all the alcohol and stuff that's served downtown.
Well, I agree with you, Joe, but they're not open after 11 o'clock. And they've got body cameras on them now. And we have 1 vehicle.
Well, I don't think we can make a decision on that for this budget because, like Nancy said, 1, it's in contract, and 2, it's got to be talked about with Chief to see if there's a waiver or not. So, I mean, that might be something
Kevin's
to look at.
aware.
You're right. But we can't fix it into the budget right now.
Well, I think we've got to figure out something in that police budget to have somebody here Sunday and Monday. Kevin and Josh both take Sunday and Monday off. and they don't have it covered.
Well, those two, Kevin then needs to rearrange. If we want coverage on Sunday, Monday, then they need to rearrange their days off and not both take them. But that's a different story than two people on a Friday night, on a Friday and Saturday. That comes down to contract, correct?
Would the board support not having two people on Friday and Saturday night?
Got to
I'd
look
agree
into it
with
a
it.
little more.
Yeah,
I'd
I'm
agree
not,
to it.
I don't
Yeah, it's something we
necessarily
need to
agree.
talk to Chief.
I
Yeah.
can't hear two of you at a time. Joe, what's your opinion?
My opinion is that's something we need to look into a little more and talk to Chief, because he's the one who knows what's actually is going on downtown Friday and Saturday nights, not us. He's on that aspect of it. It'd be too presumptuous of myself to say, oh yeah, let's do this or not do that.
Kevin and I've talked about this a lot, and his thoughts are that it should be taken out of the contract when it comes up. So I'm just trying to save a year on it.
Well, I'm one of those guys who like to talk to Chief myself and find out, and not saying anything bad, just that that's the way I like to operate.
Nancy?
I agree with Joe. I'm not, especially in the summertime, I think that we need two people on a Friday and Saturday. I would agree. In February, no, but in the summer, and it's going to explode in the next 18 months nationwide. People are done. They're getting their vaccines. They're going to be out. We're going to have a beautiful downtown. We're going to have a lot of people here. And body cams only provide the evidence. They don't help stop the situations. So I think there needs to be more discussion.
Well, I think we got to put some money in the budget. I don't know how much you've got in the budget, Tina. I can look it up for part-time help. But if we're going to cover Saturday and Sunday, have somebody on, we'll need enough money in the budget for that.
Right. So I guess so right now is we have about $11,000 built into the budget for part-time police help, police force. Josh, David, and Kevin, their wages are, I've got 150 for the two of them. And right now I've got 11,000 for part-time help. I honestly would not be able to even guesstimate as to whether or not that's an appropriate level or not. Kevin would probably need to put some
I'm going to go up and see
schedule
Kevin
up
later
in the pencil.
today. And see what, maybe if the board is comfortable with nobody on Sunday, Monday, then that's fine. I think in the summertime, we need a presence here, at least during the day.
If it is the board's intention to hire and have seasonal help for parking, I would probably recommend that we offset that expense with some revenue. If I put that back in the budget, that just continues to push us back further, but looking at, I think you're looking at about $6,000 in wages. Again, if I knew a schedule or how many hours you think you would have coverage for parking meter folks.
I'm meeting with Kevin today. I'll ask him what he because we had talked about last week not having anybody on, so.
And again, those parking meters usually bring in revenue. It covers the cost of the worker plus 10 to 20 above.
That's when you got them all up, Joe. And I'm not sure how
Okay.
many we can get up. I know John Street can be, I guess, they're done over there.
Well, I guess for now I'll put about $6,000 back in the budget for parking meters, and I'm
Okay.
gonna set that by revenue. Parking meters. Then that still leaves us a gap of about 15,000.
Okay. Tina, did you adjust the youth commission? Joe, did you have any comments on the youth commission? You're the liaison there. I noticed in the town budget that they only have $15,000 now for them. And we've been always paying half. And we've been paying 18 when we pay the 9. But if they've only got 15 in their budget, we've only got to pay 7,500.
Yeah, it went down quite a bit. So ours is being reduced as well. So
I have 7,500 in here right now.
75, okay.
Norma, this is Alicia. Can I just address that for a second? I think it's important, just because this is a public meeting, to add some information to that. We just reduced the amount that's in the budget. The Youth Commission has a very substantial fund balance, more so than what is normally desired to have in an account like that. So the goal of reducing the number in the budget is to encourage them to spend down that fund balance. We're not reducing the money they have available to them. We're just reducing the new amount we're putting into the account. So they'll still be able to spend whatever it is they need to spend this year. They're just going to have to spend some of that out of fund balance.
But it's okay if we only pay 7,500, right?
Yeah, I mean, it further encourages the spend down of that excessive fund balance.
Yeah. Okay. Tina, did you reduce the community beautification because Mary Heyman and Heidi have come up with the money to pay for the flowers?
I've got, I can't remember what we originally started. I've got $2,500 in there right now.
Okay. Probably you could reduce it by 1,000 or more. They've got quite a collection of money for that.
Okay.
Where's all this money coming from? I'm just curious.
They got it from downtown merchants and some private people that like the way Heidi has kept the parks, and so they've contacted Heidi, and she's got the money, which is a good thing, I guess.
All right. Well, I have no problem. It sounds like I do. I really don't have any problem with that. But the Clayton Floral Society is making thoughts and process. And now these people over here, I think everybody needs to get on the same page. That's all.
I think there's two separate issues here. You've got the society and you've got the village. And the village has maintained for decades, and especially Heidi, the parks and all that. So I hate to rock the boat there. That's a known entity.
So is she doing all this on a volunteer basis this
Yeah.
year again?
Yeah, she
All right.
did last year too. I think she was only paid that 1 year, maybe 2. But she's been doing it for 10 years or more. No, she's not paid. And that was the issue, because she is here now and retired. She didn't want to be responsible to water on the weekends. And Terry said that he would have a DPW guy water on the weekends, which I think that they're going to have to. They come in on Sunday morning and Saturday morning for 3 hours to pick up the trash, and they don't need they don't have to be here 3 hours, but they get paid for it. So they could water around Saturday or Sunday morning if the weather requires that.
Well, I think this is where we have to have, I think there needs to be a little get together with Terry to find out, because he alluded, and I know you're not going to like this, Norma, but if you only have 3 DPW guys working, chances are slim at either one of those 3, and I'm just making an assumption, so I could be 100% wrong, are going to volunteer to come in and water and do trash.
Who's going to volunteer? I mean, like,
I don't know. That's what I'm suggesting. I don't know that any of those 3 individuals. What I don't know. Those just conversation.
Well,
I don't
the
know.
DPW is responsible for picking up the trash on Saturday and Sunday, regardless if they got 5 people or 3 people. And they get paid time and a half for 3 hours to do it. And I'd be hard pressed to think that they've spent 3 hours every Friday or Saturday and Sunday to pick up the trash. They get it done, they can go home. But we have, that's a contract. We have to pay them the 3 hours.
Now, does water and sewer employees fit into this anywhere?
No, they do not. They're already on call. They have to come in Saturday and Sunday morning all the time for the readings, for the checks, whatever they do. They're on every Saturday and Sunday, year round. So we're going to be in a bind. I don't care how you slice and dice it. So how much money you got to have now, Tina? Pretty hard to take a cut and pay for the board.
It was, so I'm just, I mean, we're within, like I said, within $15,000. What I could do, and again, this will totally be dependent on discussions amongst the board on whether you think you can bring meter income in or not. But I could put $20,000 in for meter fees to offset the labor and basically balance the budget at this point. And then you can have some further discussions on whether you think we can meet that. I mean, there are some revenue sources that we still don't know how they will flesh out down, in the future. But in order to not touch fund balance, we would have to increase revenue. And honestly, if you're going to bring parking meter people on, then enforce it and make it happen. I mean, when you were in full season and you had your meters, the revenue, so in like fiscal year 2017, it was 51,000 in meter revenue, 45 in 18, 51 in 19, 42 in 20. So that of course has to be offset by the labor that goes with that. But considering we're talking about 15,000, I feel comfortable putting that in the budget.
Oh, I'd be comfortable with 15, I guess.
Yeah, that sounds really good.
So with that said, we are currently then balanced. The budget would be at 2,422,946. Our that maintains us being within the tax cap allowable tax levy limit, so you have not exceeded the limit. And you're looking at a tax rate increase of 6 cents. So last year's tax rate was 7.756751, and this year, right now, with the way it stands, would be 7.812377.
Okay, now we've got one other thing, and that I think we've got to do an executive session is, other than the ones that are in the contract that they get the increase, pay increase, we've got other staff, non-bargaining that we got to talk about. How we're going to address that.
Yes.
One other thing, Tina, I bring to the board's attention is the report that we got on our fiscal stress.
Yes. So we've got the first results out on the fiscal stress score, which I'm happy to say is positive. Actually, let me just dig that up because I was reviewing it. So the fiscal stress score for the village for 2020 came out at 19.2. Last year, which by the way gives it no designation. So in order to even be susceptible to fiscal stress, the village would need to score at least a 45. So over the last 3 years, in 2018, the village scored a 31.7. In 19, it was 37.9. And then for fiscal year ending 2020, we dropped down to 19.2. So I just want to say that in the last 3 years, the village hasn't even scored high enough to be even considered susceptible to fiscal stress. And this year we've moved it significantly lower. So that's very positive. And the key indicators for at least our points going down, again, we weren't susceptible to begin with, but the key indicators that reduced that was the fact that we reduced our operating deficits in the general fund and increased fund balance. So those are two objectives that the board has taken very seriously, and it's you're seeing the results of it. So
thank you, Tina.
Very happy to see that happening. The other part of the thing is your environmental stress, which we have not as much control over. You know, that is impacted by unemployment rates, population decreasing, and home values. So the village does categorize it or meet the criteria for susceptible. You're at the lowest limit of it, but it is a direct result of unemployment, which of course that is at significantly high because of COVID. But population reduction and values of homes, those are also indicators as well.
Thank you. Does the board have any other? We got to do an executive session to get staffing rates established. So who's on here? We've only got one caller. I guess it's not part of the board. And who else we got? Just one. So do we want to go into an executive session to thrash out this?
Yes.
Okay, Tina, you can stay on. And caller 5, I don't know who that is, but would you please leave for this? Thank you.